Last year, the world was shocked. Russia invaded Ukraine and caused one of the most chaotic years we've had since World War II, with every day seeing tensions rise between the West and Russia. The war in Ukraine has roiled Europe and shaken up the global economy. Its ripple effects will continue to be felt around the globe for many years to come. However, sadly, Ukraine was not the only conflict happening in 2022, with many harsh conflicts happening all around the world, and oftentimes getting very little media coverage. So in an effort to combat that, here are 10 conflicts that could be happening in 2023. Pakistan enters an election year with a deeply divided political body, with former Premier Imran Khan whipping up opposition to the government and the powerful military. In addition, Pakistan is facing the aftermath of devastating floods, a struggling economy, and a resurgence of Islamic extremists. The general vows to stay out of politics, but may feel compelled to get involved if conditions worsen. The biggest flashpoint between the US and China, Taiwan, looks increasingly unstable, as Washington seeks to maintain primacy in the Asian Pacific and Beijing mounts a growing challenge. Many argue that the invasion was unlikely. However, after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the possibility has greatly increased. This is in combination with recent disputes over chip manufacturing, which has led to a drastic increase in tensions. The global effects of a Taiwan conflict would dwarf the Ukraine war's fallout, so any change is a risk. However slight, it is worth watching. Since President Jovenel Moïse was murdered in July 2021, Haiti has been paralyzed by political gridlock and rampant gang violence. Services have collapsed. Cholera is spreading. Despite the dismal legacy of previous interventions, foreign troops may be the best hope for Haiti. Governments in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are struggling to contain Islamic insurgencies. Discontent in the army has fueled coups in Burkina and Mali. Outside interventions led by France are winding down amid widespread anti-Western sentiment. Russia's increasing involvement is souring further tensions between Western and Sahelian governments. The M23 rebels have re-emerged to wreak havoc in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Kinshasa blames neighboring Rwanda, adding a dangerous dimension. An East African mission led by Kenya is trying to restore calm, but if it fails, the Eastern DRC could again become the center of a regional proxy war. Two recent agreements have brought an end for now to a war in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region, which has taken hundreds of thousands of lives. But with key questions unresolved and tensions continuing to build, plenty could go wrong. Much will depend on whether Tigray's forces disarm and Eritrean troops withdraw, and in what sequence. The war in Yemen is in an uncomfortable limbo after a truce between the Houthi rebels and the internationally recognized government lapsed in October. Fighting is still mostly on hold, but the UN brokered negotiations sputtering and both sides preparing for a renewed war. The lull could end at any time. Protests against Islamic law, a continuing economic crisis, lack of freedom of expression, violation of women's rights, and brutality carried out during protests, internet cutoffs, and the killing of Mahsa Amini were some of the reasons for the start of a civil protest in Iran through 2021 and 2022. The protests initially erupted on July 15th to protest the water shortages and crises, but quickly were met with police violence and brutality. This massive amount of civil unrest, as well as crisis over Iran's nuclear program, is brewing, with talks to revive the 2015 nuclear deal in a deep freeze. The Ukraine war has reverberated in the South Caucasus, where Armenia and Azerbaijan might be headed for another confrontation. The balance of force is increasingly favoring Azerbaijan, which is better equipped, while Armenia's traditional supplier, Russia, is short on arms. Neither Russian nor Western-sponsored talks have brought the sides closer to a sustainable agreement, and clashes have continued. The failure of talks could well result in a renewed war. On February 24, 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine in a major escalation of the Russo-Ukrainian War, which began in 2014. The invasion has resulted in tens of thousands of deaths on both sides, and has also caused Europe's largest refugee crisis since World War II. Ukraine has resisted Russia's assault, but after nearly a year of fighting, there's no end in sight to the war. Neither Kiev nor the Kremlin has shown an appetite for peace talks, each believing it can prevail. Western capitals should continue backing Ukraine while avoiding a direct clash with Russia and keeping the door open for negotiations. However, with increasing tensions from Sweden and Finland joining NATO, as well as rumors of Vladimir Putin being sick, this war has much more to give.